So you want to learn how it's possible to work long hours at your computer all day long without having to rely on caffeine. Now, that probably sounds crazy to you. You might be thinking to yourself, dude, there's no freaking way that you're telling me you can be more productive, more focused, and work for longer periods of time without caffeine. I know it might sound impossible to some of you watching this, but here's what I know, okay? And I'm obviously speaking from my personal experience. And in my experience, what I found is that caffeine can be a great tool for short-term hyperproductivity. It can make you feel locked in, right? Certainly helps to pull you out of an overly tired state of mind. And it's certainly necessary for people that have become physically dependent on it. However, a lot of times using caffeine will lead to massive energy crashes later in the day, which might mean that, okay, cool, you were killing it for 2 to 3 hours in the morning right after coffee, but then you took a break, you had lunch, and next thing you know, it's 2 p.m. and you're slouched in front of your computer. You just yawned 6 times back to back, and now you're seconds away from putting your head down on the desk to get some shut-eye. At that moment, I bet you don't feel like the superhuman version of you like you did when you drank your caffeine earlier in the day. You probably feel like a weakling who can barely sit up straight in the middle of the day. Rather than crush your goals and dominate the rest of the day, you just want to curl up into a ball on your bed and take a nap. You tell me. How productive does that sound? What I have found is that the energy and focus that I get from being a caffeine-free person, while it may not be like the short-term, hyper-stimulated, eyes glued to the screen without blinking for 90 minutes straight, crackhead energy that you get from caffeine, I'm able to work consistently for longer hours during the days without ups and downs, and without the negative side effects and the burnt out feeling. So I'm going to dive into exactly the steps that I've taken to essentially rig my body and mind to become alert, hyper-focused, and sustain my energy levels throughout long and mentally demanding work days without relying on caffeine. So first things first, you have to stop drinking caffeine. Shocker, right? Not really. This should be obvious, but let me explain. You're addicted to caffeine. Let's just admit it. There's no shame. There's no guilt. Don't beat yourself up. I don't say that to make you feel bad or to feel weird about it. I've totally been there myself. I'm just saying that to highlight the fact that your body right now is probably physically dependent on this chemical to function properly. This is what happens over time, and don't worry, it's not permanent, 100% reversible. It just takes a little resilience and a little time. In order to reap the awesome benefits of having that high natural energy and focus without caffeine, you must first rewire your brain and body to no longer crave and need caffeine. I'm not going to go into full detail here on quitting or detoxing from caffeine, but if you'd like to see a full breakdown of how I do it, then go down to the section below and comment the word detox, and I'll make a future video on this. Essentially, you need to quit fully and just realize that it's probably going to suck for about 2 weeks. Takes a few weeks for the body and brain to go back to normal, stabilizing the chemicals, the neurotransmitters that are in our brain, and getting back to a point where you can feel energized and alert without it. How I describe it to people is like the first 2 weeks sucks, the third week gets better, and by the fourth week, you're basically totally back to normal and feeling great. So then next is you want to test and optimize your testosterone. Now, inside of our bodies, we have this master male hormone called testosterone. And testosterone is literally what makes us men, but it has a huge effect on our physical energy output and our ability to do hard work, to complete long workouts, and to even sustain high levels of cardio for extended periods. Now, testosterone has a myriad of other benefits as well and other functions that it serves in the body, but just for the purpose of this video, we're going to focus mainly on the benefits that affect our mental state and energy levels. So without dropping into a long essay about testosterone, just know that average levels of testosterone have been dropping for decades. There's tons of things that negatively impact your body's production of testosterone. And so now we're in a spot where many men today have lower levels of testosterone, even though a doctor might tell you that you're in the normal range. So my recommendation is to go get tested if you've never seen what your levels are at, and then take the steps to optimize your testosterone and boost it as high as you can naturally. And no, you don't want to have to rely on a TRT clinic. You don't want to have to hop on roids and deal with tons of negative side effects. And also keep in mind that most of the herbs and supplements that are marketed to boost your testosterone, they won't actually work on you unless you dial in the 8 or 9 other steps to optimizing your lifestyle first. So I'm not going to do a deep dive here, but I'll link my other video up here where I tell you the 8 steps that you can take to optimize your testosterone naturally. So that you could open that up in another tab, you can watch it after this one. The reason this makes such a big difference is because testosterone also provides us with drive, with motivation, and it helps us to take pleasure in doing difficult things. And let's be honest, a lot of times when we're on a mission to make a lot of money, to progress in our career, to build our own business, we have to do a lot of difficult things, whether that's to take risks, whether that's to sit down in front of a computer and do boring shit for 10 hours straight, or whether that is to creatively problem solve and constantly put out fires. To be at our best for all of this, we must have high motivation. We must be driven. We must be clear on our goals. We must feel confident in ourselves and our abilities to get things done. Testosterone helps all of this. And if we want to tie into the physical, testosterone also helps us to build muscle, build strength, and burn fat so that not only do we feel good mentally, but we are actually confident about how we look. This self-confidence in ourselves and our body image will translate to all these other areas of our lives and work. Especially as we all want to be confident and charismatic leaders in our workplace, for our potential employees, for our potential superiors, and even in our romantic and social lives. I myself used to have low testosterone, and through many years of research and self-experimentation, I figured out how to more than double it completely naturally. Now I feel great, which has allowed me to get into the best shape of my life, become very confident in myself, and have the motivation and the mental bandwidth to start my own business. I now own a health optimization coaching business where I help high-performing men look, feel, and perform like athletes. So if you're a man that is a high performer or an entrepreneur, and you want to improve every area of your life and your health, then see the link in the description down below. We can chat more about how I might be able to help you. Now, you follow the first two pieces of advice, and you're at a point where your body is not physically dependent on caffeine anymore. Congratulations. And now you have high testosterone levels in your body. So you're feeling pretty damn good. How do we take it one step further? Well, you might have guessed it. Sleep optimization. No, it's not sexy. It's not flashy. Matter of fact, it's boring as hell. And now you're probably thinking that I'm going to say, sleep 8 hours per night. Wrong. Guys, it's not enough to just sleep 7 to 9 hours anymore. It's not just about total sleep time. While that is an important metric to keep in mind, what is actually more important are the sleep stages and the amount of time that we remain in those stages every night. So to clarify, I'm not saying that you need to sleep 9, 10, or 11 hours per night. I'm saying that you want to track your sleep and see how much REM, which stands for rapid eye movement sleep, and deep sleep that you're getting every single night. These are the sleep stages that are critical for physical recovery and mental processing. So REM is the sleep stage where dreams occur, and it is a critical sleep stage that we want our bodies to be in for between an hour and a half and 2 hours per night. This is the sleep stage that is most responsible for mental clarity, your memory, and overall brain functioning, which is obviously what we want to be able to work 10 hours straight when we're not utilizing caffeine. So to do this, I would recommend using a fitness tracker like an Oura Ring, which is what I use. And yeah, it's $300, but guess what, guys? If you're not able to sit down and work for hours consistently day in and day out, well, then you're already throwing away $300 a week, bare minimum, in loss of productivity. So if you want to grab one, let the affiliate link in the description below. You can check it out. You can also track sleep with a Whoop strap, a Fitbit, or even an Apple Watch. Now, Oura is definitely known as the premier option for the best quality sleep tracking, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention there are some decent other options out there. Now you might be asking, okay, Cooper, how do I actually sleep better and have more REM sleep? Well, there's a lot to cover here, but I'm just going to hit on the main things, okay? One thing that is going to help tremendously is actually step number 1, which we already solved, which is quitting caffeine. Oh, and by the way, look, I know not all of you watching this are going to quit caffeine, and that's fine. So for those of you that want to continue to use caffeine daily, really quick, the best way that I've found to use caffeine while minimizing the negative effects, just drink 1 serving. Yes, just 1, not 2, not 5. 1 serving exactly 90 minutes after waking up. So the next thing that will help your sleep quality tremendously is to regulate and align with your circadian rhythm. This is our body's natural sleep-wake cycle. To do this, we want to get up in the morning every day and head outside almost immediately. So getting the sunlight in the eyes in the morning tells our body clock what time it is. And it sets us up for a successful day of feeling energized, alert, and it'll also help to tell our body when we should get tired, when we should wind down and fall asleep later in the evening. After that, pick a consistent sleep-wake cycle. This helps a ton. So pick a sleeping window. Right now, mine is 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And as long as you can be within 30 minutes of this, plus or minus, you're in a great spot. Try to do this all 7 days a week, or minimum 5-6 days a week. I hate to break it to you. I know it's hard on the weekends, but guess what? Your body doesn't know what weekends are. Now, if you notice, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. is a 9-hour window. So the reason for that is because time in bed does not equal time asleep. Just because you went into your bedroom and you tried to go to sleep at that time and then you set your alarm for 8 hours later, that doesn't mean that you slept for 8 hours. So I give myself a longer window of time so that I have time to fall asleep. And I'm accounting for bits of time throughout the night where I might wake up and toss and turn. So ideally, I can check my Oura ring and the next day, I can see that I actually slept for 8, maybe 8.5 hours on a good night. So while I could go way deeper on optimizing your sleep, it would just be far too long to cover everything in this video. So I want to quickly move on to my last piece of achieving 10 plus hours of focus without caffeine. And that is to optimize your flow states and take small intentional breaks. So one concept I've been learning more about recently is the concept of being in a flow state. Being in a flow is a zone of focus that allows you to just be completely lost in the moment and operating at a super high mental bandwidth, which just allows you to perform at your absolute best. Now, oftentimes when we're in flow, we lose track of time and we do some of our best and most creative work. One of the tricks that I've used to get into flow states easier is using flow triggers. Now, what is a flow trigger? So a flow trigger is any action that you do right before going into a flow state or a deep work session that can help you to essentially drop into flow more easily. It's an association of sorts that allows your brain to recognize and go, all right, fasten your seatbelt, it's go time. Now, an example of this is going into a room or an office and then intentionally shutting the door when you want to lock in. Or you can throw the same pair of over-the-ear headphones on or turn on a specific work playlist. It can really be anything that you do every time. And it's this habitual thing or it's an action that you do to really signify to your body and brain that you want to focus and you want to drop into a flow state. The next thing that has helped me for flow is to, like I mentioned just a second ago, listen to a specific work playlist. You can actually find some really cool playlists that have really optimal work music that may help you to get into the zone easier. I tend to like music that has no lyrics and is more house or EDM focused type beats, but some people really love lo-fi, coffee shop type beats, and then there are also binaural beats, which are songs that use a specific type of auditory phenomenon that happens when you essentially listen to 2 different frequencies at one time. So when you listen to these beats, it can change your brain waves, help you to get into a more aroused and a more focused state of mind. I'll make sure to drop a couple of the playlists that I use in the description below so you can check them out as well on Spotify. Lastly, for flow states, you want to take intentional breaks. The thing about being in a true flow state is that it drains your mental energy more than being in a regular state. You're getting more output and you're probably losing track of time and you're getting a lot of stuff done, but as a result, it taps more of your energy reserves than usual. So it's really important that you don't just try to stay in a flow state for literally 10 hours straight. It's actually recommended by experts to take intentional breaks for between maybe 5-15 minutes every 90 to 120 minutes. Being in a flow state for 1 to 2 hours is totally doable, but much longer than that, you supposedly will just get diminishing returns. And instead of just pushing through, you're actually a lot better off taking a nice break. You let your brain relax a little bit and then you get back to work after a bit. Now, quick note here, ideally your breaks are not too stimulating for your brain also. So as much as it may be tempting to just grab your phone, scroll through Instagram or something like that, you'd actually be a lot better off just doing some stretches, going for a short walk, or doing something that doesn't put a large load on the brain or the eyeballs. So what can you take away from today's video? Well, for starters, if you want to be someone that could sustain long periods of focus without caffeine, you first need to start by becoming a non-caffeine person. And next, you're doing yourself a massive favor by testing your testosterone, doing what you can to be in an optimal range for your overall performance. And of course, you want to dial in your sleep and actually prioritize it for the best results. Lastly, be intentional about your work time and tap into flow states to get more work done and to zone in on your most important work. If you learned anything new in the video today, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can experience more out of life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.